So Married at First Sight 2020. Last night was the final dinner party and there was a notable absentee, and that was you. Why did you choose to boycott the event?
I just felt like after the girls' night that it wasn't really my scene. I don't communicate with females in such an abusive way, so I didn't feel like getting screamed at or spoken down to like that ever again, so I just didn't put myself in that situation.
What was the producer's reaction though to your decision not to attend the event?
They were actually really understanding. I did say at the end of the girls' night that I wasn't going to be attending the reunion dinner party, and they understood, yeah.
That's historic. It's, well, in the sense that for the new season, certainly. There was an incident last year which certainly wasn't put down to that type of situation with Sam Ball, but with you not attending on those grounds, you must have been fairly strong feelings to adopt such a position.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling comfortable putting myself in that environment. Like, I did enter this experiment to actually find love, not to be so like attacked, I guess. So I didn't find love, and I didn't want to be a part of that whole scenario. Everyone knows that the dinner parties are quite renowned for an absolute uproar, and yeah, I just didn't. It's not me. It's not in my nature. I don't like going out anyway, so I didn't miss much.
You were paired with Chris Nichols, who, on the face of it, appears to be a decent character. Why didn't your relationship work?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. Chris kind of faked how he felt about me through the whole thing. He initially said the truth at the beginning, that he wasn't attracted to me, and then he changed it to say that he was, and we're trying to like work on things. But he's admitted to multiple people now that he never actually had any feelings for me, but just continued to say it, I guess, for the sake of staying in the experiment, which is hurtful to me.
Did he give the experiment a decent shake as far as you're concerned?
I don't think he did, because to me, giving the experiment and someone your all for 10 weeks is actually being present in the relationship, and he definitely wasn't present at all.
I suppose the big moment is when you set eyes on each other at the altar. It is Married at First Sight, and there is that moment there where you lock eyes. What did you sense when Chris locked eyes on you?
I automatically sensed that he was disappointed. I think he was very disappointed to see me walk down the aisle.
Your heart must have sank.
Yeah, it did. Like, I kind of felt like this big chunk was just in my throat, and I just like cringed my teeth and smiled, and yeah, it made me feel really awkward and really uncomfortable, and that's pretty much how the whole experiment was for me, because you just have this person who says one thing but is definitely giving you something else behind closed doors, so it made me very uneasy.
But this is not like Tinder where you go on there and essentially take your chances. You've been matched by relationship experts, people who claim to have some sort of authority in this field. They've put the contestants through a barrage of tests, psychological, physical, all that sort of thing, to essentially find your best match. And they've got it tragically wrong in this case.
Yeah, I was putting a lot of faith and hope into 3 people, I guess, because sometimes we don't trust our own judgment. And what they gave me at first, for at least the first week and a bit, I thought that I hit the jackpot. Like, they didn't give me ideally what I like visually like, but I did tell them I did want something other than like a pretty face. So I said I wanted a different type, and that's what they gave me. I was just more focused on someone's heart and soul and personality, and that's what I focused on, and what I saw I did not like.
The experiment had been the subject of quite a bit of discussion, quite a bit of supposition and conjecture. You were forced off the experiment, weren't you?
I don't know if forced off was the right word, but I definitely asked the producer if I could leave because I no longer felt safe to be in the experiment with Chris.
It's a fairly big statement. You feel safe. Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean?
Chris was a very different person to me behind closed doors, so he showed everyone the side of him that he constantly tried to, I guess, act. So he wanted to be known as the gentleman, which he constantly told me. He constantly told me that he was the alpha in the group, and he needed to come across as a gentleman for his family, he said to me.
So there's been quite a lot of discussion about the reasons you left the show. It's been the subject of quite a bit of supposition and conjecture. Essentially, it appears you were sent home. Would that be true?
I wasn't sent home. I asked one of the biggest producers if I could leave, I actually told her I don't want to be near Chris anymore because I just didn't feel safe.
When you say safe, you need to elaborate on that.
Look, I don't want to go into like too much detail, but Chris was very verbal towards me. And when Chris started drinking, I just felt extremely unsafe to the point where I hid in the bathroom from him. So I just didn't trust him.
Two people just not getting along, butting heads, or this is two people who are potentially with his open warfare almost?
Look, I did not get along with Chris. I didn't know him enough. He didn't give me the opportunity to get to know him. He was there for a different reason to what I was. That's the only way that I can explain it.
So you were there for love and he was there for...
I think he might have initially turned up for love once he realised it was me and what I looked like. He just didn't want a bar of it. And yeah, that's quite hurtful because I was completely open for the experiment.
Yeah, you do have a situation where personalities clash and people don't get on and so forth. But in those circumstances, and especially in an experiment like this where you are committed to a 3-month period together, you have to give it some time, don't you?
Yeah, you definitely do. Like, I was there for 10 weeks in my mind to dedicate myself to someone for 10 weeks, my undivided attention, and I was living week by week where, for me, I think Chris was just in it for the 10 weeks. And the main reason why I say that is because he booked a trip home to go see his mates, I think 3 days before I called it, because he was so convinced that we were making it to the end, because he constantly was telling me that. He goes, there's no reason for us to go home. And I was like, how can you think 10 weeks? How can you think 5 more weeks in advance? Like, I'm literally gauging it week by week in this experiment because you never know what's coming. So it all just seemed a little bit fake to me on his behalf.
Scale of 1 to 10, how bad was it?
For my experience, the last week for me was like epic, like 15. Like, I've never felt so stripped of my confidence, my self-worth, of just everything who I was. I utterly got, destroyed by Chris.
I suppose the difficulty is this is not a relationship that's conducted in private, conducted like most relationships are.
Yeah.
This is a relationship that is conducted in front of the cameras, which obviously has caused you a great deal of anxiety.
Look, who Chris was on camera was fantastic. If that was the Chris that I actually got to see day and night, then we would have made it to the end and I would have been completely fine. It wasn't the Chris that I saw on camera that has caused me any grief. It's the Chris that I saw behind closed doors that has, disrupted my peace.
I remember the day you left, you were crestfallen, you looked broken. I remember walking down Darling Harbour and I could just see the pain that you were going through. That was real.
Yeah, I was stupid enough to fall for the words that he was saying. I was bloody hurt. I was really hurt.
And alone.
Very, very alone, yeah.
And isolated. You were unable to draw strength from anybody else in the cast, or they keep you apart? Is that sort of the way that it's managed, just to...
Yeah, you're not meant to talk to anyone in the cast, but I think everyone spoke to someone, but it was so early on and you don't really know anyone in this experiment. Like, you think you do, but you really don't. So, I mean, I just turned to my girlfriends and friends back home and they were my rock, they were my support.
It does take two to tango, as they say, and you can play the blame game, I suppose, but do you feel that you did everything possible within your power, within your subconscious, your psyche, to make this?
Yeah, for the first time in my life, I went in with a very open mind because the old me would have walked away at the altar. But like, in my mind, I was there to change old patterns, change old habits and stuff. So yeah, I really do. Like, I was cooking, washing, cleaning, doing stuff that I wouldn't ever do, like dressing up in a nurse's outfit. Like, Christ, I wouldn't do any of that stuff for someone in the real world. It's just not in my nature, but I was getting nothing. So I think I was trying everything. So yeah, I think I just gave up.
Certainly trying really hard.
Well, I mean, they prompt you to do that,
Yeah.
so...
Well, that gets me onto that whole issue around the show, which look, we all know that some of the storylines are manufactured.
Some.
Well, some more than some.
Yeah, more than some, I would say. In my experience, more than some, I would say.
Have they got the balance right? The balance between creating the drama and finding those ultimate love stories, the Cam and Jules, those people that Australia can really relate to and fall in love with?
I think people like Cam and Jules, that's what made me like go into this with high hopes, I guess, like to be that 1% that could have worked out. And I don't feel that their story was fabricated. I feel like they're two genuine people who entered into an experiment to find love. So I think that automatically works. But I think when you've got one genuine and maybe one not so genuine, then it's not going to work and it is going to be chaotic.
So who's to blame? Is it the experts? Is it the producers?
Well, look, I don't really blame anyone. I think everything is a good experience at the end of the day because like I've learned hell of a lot about myself from this. But yeah, I don't know. I gave them everything I didn't want, and they handed it to me. So I think it's a test.
There's supposed to be a science to this, the love game, you know, the relationship science that accompanies this whole experiment, and that's what it's based on. Putting people together who you give the best chance of working. In this case, you've asked for something, you've got something completely different. You don't blame anybody for that, wasting all that time putting you through.
No, because I actually asked them, I said, if you think that this person is mentally suited to me, give them. Like, I'm open for absolutely anything. And yeah, I guess they thought that may have been better. And you know what, I was completely in it for 2 weeks. I was like, maybe about a week and a half on the honeymoon when we really had that time to really like get to know each other and talk. That was the only time we communicated. So when we were talking, I was like, we actually do have a lot of similarities, so I can see why they matched us. But after that, like I didn't want a party boy because as soon as Chris met the boys, our relationship started to fail. Right. So.
Well, there's one particular instance where he ends up in a situation with Michael Goonan and Hayley Vernon, and from that, there's been an episode which has obviously been highly publicised about Michael Goonan and Hayley Vernon, the alleged affair, so to speak, that he won't speak of, but everyone else seems to have confirmed. You have some intimate knowledge of that, don't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was there that night, unfortunately. It did happen in my room, and I was the least intoxicated of everyone. I think I'd had about 3 drinks. And yeah, look, it's pretty obvious. It did happen. Hayley admitted it happened. I know the boys made a big pact with Hayley to deny that it happened, but it came out in the end, like all truth does. That's why I don't like lying. But for some reason, Chris said to Stacey on the phone he didn't see anything, and that really frustrated me because I feel Chris is just an epic liar. He will do anything to be friends with everyone.
So you're not going for Goonan on this one?
Nah, like, I don't know. Like, Goonan for me, like, he did initiate it 100% with Hayley.
What do you mean initiate?
Well,
give some detail.
Crisis. Well, when you've got, so Hayley walks in, she says that she's unhappy with her relationship. Michael walks in, says that he's in love with Stacey and says that Dave's an idiot, like that he would fuck her in a heartbeat, right? And then that's what started everything. You don't tell someone who is unhappy in their relationship that you would hook up with them. Where do you think that's going to lead? So it's just, yeah, it's a lot of mistrust and it's just stupid stuff to be said. It's very immature.
A lot of it seems to be quite alcohol fueled as well, yeah?
Oh, 100% it was alcohol fueled. I don't think any of that ever would have happened if they were sober. Don't get me wrong, I don't think either of them would have gone each other sober. But
something you approved of though?
No, it's not what I approved of, but crisis, what do you do? It's my room. I'm there. You know, like
from an early stage in the experiment, you've got people there who obviously aren't giving their all, and they're prepared to compromise the integrity of the show and of what I suppose your values that brought you in. You know, obviously looking for love, and they're just sort of playing the field.
Yeah, I don't condone cheating. Obviously, I've been cheated on, so I would just. Why didn't they just leave? If they weren't happy, why didn't they just leave? But that's each to their own.
Look, if your relationship was a train wreck, then
I would have left.
Multiple car crashes around you.
Yeah.
Were you surprised that so many relationships disintegrated so early on?
Yeah, because I thought a lot of people would have been really strong, and it just turned out that not that many were.
And you were saying that Connie will be the star of the show, you think?
Oh, I knew.
That's a bold prediction.
Yeah, no, I did at the hens night. I did initially say that Connie was the quietest, so I said Connie is going to be the biggest character, and she stayed the whole way through.
Have you spoken to Chris since the experiment ended?
God, no, and I have no desire to.
Right.
Yeah.
Seems to be a lot of resentment there.
I do. I resent people that lie to me. I literally said to him from day one, you tell me the truth, I will forgive all. If you lie to me, I want nothing to do with you. I don't have respect for that.
Has he reached out or not?
No, he blocked me on Instagram from the second week that we were in this experiment together. So what honest person does that to someone they're interested in? It's not a thing.
Well, you're going into the Lion's Den then tonight.
I am. And I don't really care anymore. I'm so done.
You are going to be on the couch with Chris.
Away from Chris, yes.
What do you mean away from Chris?
Well, I've asked to be seated away from him.
It's a couch, you can't be too far away.
I just don't want to... I don't want to be near him because,
Really?
yeah, he's so smug because he's a very good liar. So I don't want to be near Chris.
It's an opportunity though to speak your truth.
It is. If I do get the opportunity to, I don't obviously know what's going to be aired because my version of things that happened isn't a family-friendly version. It's the truth, and people don't want to hear the truth. So unfortunately, it's chopped and changed, and no man is going to admit when they're wrong.
But it is an opportunity to put Chris on the spot in front of his peers. You'll be doing that?
If I get the chance to, yeah, I definitely will say everything I need to say for sure.
So Married at First Sight 2020, you didn't find love, found heartbreak. What's next?
I didn't find love, but I found me, and I think that's a lot better. I think I've come out of this a lot stronger than I entered it. So you got broken, you rebuild, and you conquer. So for me, I just want to help people.
And there's someone out there for the girl who's found me?
I think there is, yeah. I think there's definitely, like, I know exactly what I don't want.
A stripper.
And it's not a stripper, it's not that, but I don't really care about someone's job or their past. That's just not my desired thing that I want to bring home to my mum. But yeah, I definitely want a gentleman, like an actual gentleman. So not someone who tells me that they are, the humble, silent type that actually shows me. Their actions speak louder than their words.
I hope you find him.
Thank you, me too.